My name is Ted Elliott. I'm the CEO of Copado. And what Copado does is less divorces. And you might ask, well, wait, I thought you guys were doing DevOps software. What we mean by that is that people who use our software usually are the folks who are at the office all night, who don't get to go home early when things are broken. And we find that that creates a lot of personal stress. When everything works and you get to go home for a meal with your family and you make that play that you were going to miss, or you see that soccer game, you tend to like your life a lot more and you tend to do your best work. And we're really focused on trying to give people back their personal time by making sure their professional time is the best they can do with it when it comes to delivering software. I joined Copado because I believed in the mission that Copado was trying to solve. I had myself done a startup on the Salesforce ecosystem. I saw the impact of having to sit by the elevator bank to make sure the developers wouldn't leave the building when things were broken. And these guys sold me this idea that you could actually make it work and it could make it easy to build on Salesforce. The core problem that Copado is helping solve is trust in the development process. Historically, the people who work on Salesforce are consultants. And those consultants are really paid to get tasks done and projects done, but not necessarily to make sure that the projects work 3 days after they leave the building. And a lot of what you need is to just set up some basic processes to make sure that you have quality checks, to make sure that you have a way to roll back your code if it's broken, a way to identify what is going to break if you take certain actions, making sure your security is working. And all these things go into really delivering something that people can rely upon. I think the most important thing I've learned is that the real power of any piece of software is not the company, it's the users. And it's what stories those users develop with the product. While you might say, well, how does that affect the bottom line? That is the bottom line. And everything comes from that, because if people are getting value from what you're doing, they're going to pay you a lot of money for that value. And you can feel good about it also. We're learning a lot about AI from the buying experience. It turns out that a lot of enterprise buyers are not ready to buy AI. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know who's going to be the champion of it. My belief was we had to use it ourselves in order to sell it to other people. So we became AI first about 2 years ago. And the idea was, listen, you can't do everything with AI, but why don't you give it a shot? We've been doing that for 2 years. Now we're doing our SDRs with AI. Now we are doing our customer success with AI. We even built an internal product that listens to our gong calls and tells us when we have revenue at risk and creates tasks for our customer success team. And so it wasn't about eliminating people, because actually we have to hire. We're back in the hiring mode and the growth mode on the hiring side, but it's more about how do you allow people to do their best work. So I think that what's really interesting about artificial intelligence and how it's helping us build teams really comes down to data. For the first time, we can take the employee census, the performance reviews, the surveys that people are filling out about their work, and we can start figuring out which managers are successfully executing our AI-first initiatives. What are the features that people don't like? What is holding people back? Where we usually make mistakes in life is not listening to what the problem is and trying to just force a solution in without understanding the problem. And what AI is allowing us to do with our employees and our customers is to understand what they're actually saying. In essence, think of AI as the greatest listening tool ever. What we're able to do now is collect information that was never even supposed to be collected for the purpose of understanding what the customer wants, repurpose it to give us intel on what the customer is actually telling us, and then hold ourselves accountable for a plan that will force us to execute what they want, right? And that's the game changer, because we've never been able to listen to all this information. When we talk about agentic AI, we actually have the confluence of a couple different factors going on. We're actually moving from Gen Y to Gen Z, okay? And the Gen Z buyer is becoming more and more important. And it turns out that the Gen Z buyer doesn't use a telephone, doesn't want to log into a complex screen, they grew up on simple to use commercial apps where they're talking to the app and they expect something to talk back to them, right? And so that's the first big challenge that we have as producers of software, is how are the tastes and the demands of the end user changing? And I think what we really have to do is figure out how to work with people with one common platform that allows them to work the way they want to work. The purpose of a machine is to make it so that humans don't have to do work that humans shouldn't have to do. That's what gives us an advantage over all the other creatures in the forest, right? And so when you think about it, we're really going to focus people on work that is going to require more thinking or more decision making. Because at the end of the day, we're never going to hold the machine responsible for the answer. And we have to really start thinking about how are we training the new workers to make those decisions. We're very much looking at AI from the standpoint of how can we allow you to do your best work faster? And we believe if you do that, you'll be successful. And if you're successful, you'll need more of our product.